This is another Project Bait news analysis. We're talking with Ron Scott, community activist, longtime Project Bait host, member, about the situation, the police situation, the monitor situation in the city of Detroit. Ron?
Yeah, Dave, it's interesting that we talk about this because as we speak, the Detroit Police Consent Decree, almost 7 years ago now, the city entered into an agreement with the Justice Department to sort of clean out the department based on the amount of shootings that had happened and also the amount of jail deaths. Well, now 7 years later, the monitor was alleged to have been involved in an improprietous relationship with our former mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, and only 39% of the recommendations, which went from A to Z in terms of transforming how the police department takes complaints, does everything, only 39% of it has been realized, and the city has spent in excess of $7 million, maybe closer to $20 million. And so it's been a real challenge, and that just speaks to some of the other issues that people are concerned about, like response time and so on.
In this time, we're talking about a great deal about transparency and accountability. Well, if you go back all of those years, how has transparency and accountability been applied for all the mayors and police chiefs that we've had in that period of time?
And you raise a good point. I mean, we've had a number of police chiefs. I'm just trying to go back and count all of them that we've actually had since, say, the Kilpatrick administration. But we've had a number. We've had actually recently 3 in rapid succession in the last 2 years. And the judge in the case, Judge Julian Cook, who's a federal judge, was supposed to be monitoring the monitor. Well, it turns out that there wasn't good record keeping on that. There wasn't transparency from the administration about what she was doing and how she was doing it. And more or less she was basically keeping percentages as opposed to really pushing for compliance. And the judge never pushed for compliance to the degree that he could. So when you talk about transparency, it just really wasn't there. And I'd just like to draw a connection with that. You had 3 police chiefs who talk about dealing with crime. But one of their primary things was to make sure that the biggest budget, the single biggest budget in the city of Detroit, that it operated well and that people knew where the money was going. But that hasn't been clear to the police commission or anyone.
We'll move it up one notch to the mayors that appointed these people. Okay, what has been their record in response to oversight of the police department and the federal monitor?
It has not been there, Dave. It just hasn't been there. I mean, you can ask the people who watch this program. I mean, when have you had a county where the mayor comes out and says, okay, the police department spent this much when we have budget hearings and so forth, and this is exactly how your money has been spent? Well, it hasn't been. So you find the people crying, like I said, about response time, somebody broke into my house and so on. Well, the people need to know, where the dollars are. How's the dollar being spent? I go to the police commission every week, and when you look at it, they're getting millions of dollars from the federal government to bring officers back. Millions of dollars for the gang squad and other kinds of things. Well, how is that translating into service? How is that being mentioned in relationship to these reports? Well, it's not. The average citizen, unless you go to these meetings, you really don't know. It's not on the city's website.
You mentioned that the feds are giving a lot of money to the city of Detroit with regard to police matters. What is the oversight from the federal government? Well,
it's good that you asked that. I think the current Attorney General, Eric Holder, is quite concerned that there has not been as much oversight in the past and wants to make that a top priority to make sure that the current debacle of the federal consent decree is changed. So he's going to be here in the city sometime around November, and hopefully he'll take a closer look at what's happening in the Detroit Police Department. But he has sent a message that they really want to make sure that this money and that this organizational aspect and that the corruption in the Detroit Police Department is taken care of.
If the city of Detroit can't fiscally report to the state in a timely fashion, is there any reason why we should suspect that they'll be able to account to the feds in a timely fashion? or for any of the grants that they receive, because theoretically, all funding agencies should have fiscal accountability from the recipients of grants.
The police department should have an inspector general. The city should have the same. And I do think, as I said, with this Justice Department, if they're going to take on the CIA, I'm sure they're going to try to find a way to make sure that the federal dollars coming to this city are going to be spent correctly.
For our viewers, how should they get involved, say with you and your organization, the Coalition Against Police Brutality, or at their own precinct or neighborhood level, in order to make some positive changes?
Community relations meetings are held once a month at every district and every precinct. They can give us a call at 313-963-8116, and we can tell them how to do it. The Police Commission meets at 1300 Beaubien every Thursday at 3 p.m. and in the community on the second Thursday of each month at 6:30 p.m. And I'll give you their number, 496-1830, 313-496-1830. And they can get involved. There's a way to get involved either with our organization, Coalition Against Police Brutality, or as citizens at the grassroots level.
This has been another Project Bait news analysis with Ron Scott. For more information about Project Bait, access our website, projectbait.blackgold.net, and you can follow up and see this program on youtube.com, Project Bait DET.
Customer receipts, payroll, inventory, mailing label, tax reports. I've got computers, but my business still isn't organized. What can I do? You need the Office Assistant billing and bookkeeping software. Bring your business into the 21st century. Call Electronic Services 313-341-1821. That's 313-341-1821.